So we're going to be looking here at module 4, which is going to be your personal design project. I didn't really know exactly what to call it, but this is going to be something where you can apply the skills that you've learned along the way in these 2, if you would, Creo classes and other courses that you had here at WCTC as well. And you're going to make your own kind of, personal project, something that you want to work on. Rather than me giving you the stuff to do, I want you to kind of use your creativity and make something that you're interested in. So what I want to do here is I want to first go through the information that I have out here in the, if you would, learning plan or instructions. I'm not really going to be teaching you anything here. This is going to be you pulling things out that are going to be an application of what you've learned and apply it to something that you're interested in creating. So you're going to notice here that I call it a handout / rubric. Now I've got it in both Word document and in PDF form. It'll make sense why I have them both there. But if we click on that, I'm going to click on the PDF one. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. You're going to notice that it says here you want to build your grade. Okay, so I don't want to tell you what you have to include. So I'm going to give you a list of things to include, and then you can pick and choose which ones seem to be appropriate or applicable for whatever design that you choose. It says here the project that you choose can either be a new design, never done before, or a reverse engineered product, or an improvement on something that is already out there as well. So it doesn't have to be the exact thing. You can create a single part or a small assembly. I probably, to build more points, a small assembly is going to make a little bit more sense, but if it's a small part, that's okay too. Now, it says here that I want you to achieve, or your grade is going to be based on 150 points. So if you achieve 150 or more points, that's like 100%. Okay. So anything off of that is going to be whatever points that you get out of or divided by 150 points. So then that would be your percentage / your grade based on that. So first of all, I'm going to zoom out here maybe just a little bit. The sections that I have here for you are going to be features, part models, assembly model or models, detail drawings, assembly drawings, animation, and 3D printing. Okay. Now you're going to notice that there's points associated with each one. So for instance, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about the features that you're going to incorporate into your design. If it's multiple parts, it can be across those different parts. So for instance, the first time, and you're probably going to do it multiple times, that you incorporate an extrude, you would say check. That would be 10 points, okay? You might do it 30 times, but that's going to say I included an extrude. A revolve would be another 10 points. A sweep would be another 10 points. A swept blend, a blend, and or sheet metal. So those are kind of the bigger things that we did, in this course. Now, you need to incorporate at least 3 different ones. Okay, so you can't just do 3 extrudes and say, I'm done. It's like, no. Remember, just the one is included. So you need to just pick 3 off of that list. If there's a different one that you are like, hey, I want to explore draft or something else, I'll accept that. I just didn't list all the possibilities here. I just kind of used main ones that we were looking at. Okay. And you can do as many as 6. So you would get a total of 60 points. If you go into 7, 8, that it doesn't accumulate, it's fine if you do that, but it's just not going to accumulate points towards your final grade. Does that make sense? Okay. They can be across multiple parts, and then check each feature below that you have at least one occurrence of. So I have the Word document included here so that you can pull up this Word document and use it to check off so you don't have to scan it and all that kind of stuff. The next one is part models. Okay, this is really just the number of parts that you're going to incorporate into your design. If it's 1, that's okay. You need at least 1, but you could do as many as get credit for 5 parts. If your design ends up having 6, 10, however many parts, it's just that it doesn't accumulate points after that. Okay, so this would be the max. What I don't want to happen for the 150 points is that you just create 15 models and we're done. Okay, I want it to be more than just model creating. Okay, that's kind of the point of this. Then there's assembly models. Okay, if it's a small assembly that you're creating, this would be applicable. So you'd have to create a small assembly or one assembly, or maybe an assembly with a sub-assembly. So you can get as many as 20 points here, but 10 points per assembly model. Then there's detailed part drawings. Okay, so again, 10 to 50 here. If you end up having more than 5 parts or less than 5, it would only, you know, that many would count towards. Anything more than 5, it's just extra that you're doing that just doesn't count towards the total points. Assembly drawings, okay, 10 points for each one of those. And then 10 points if you animate your product. If it's appropriate to do that, you can do that. And then it's 30 points if and when you want to 3D print, okay? Now, I say build your own grade because, so let's say everybody's gonna have to create models, right? Part models. You have to create part models because you need that as the basis for anything else. So the top 2 here, you're gonna be, you know, you're gonna be probably most of your points are gonna be there. And let's say between the 2, let's say you got 60 points on the features and you had at least 5 parts, okay? That's 110 points of your 150, okay? So if you go down here, I had an assembly model, okay, that's another 10. Now I'm up to 120 points. And let's say you're like, I really don't want to do any detailed drawings. I really don't want to do any assembly drawings, but I'd really like to 3D print. There's your 150 points. Does that make sense? So that's how you're going to build your own grade. So this is where, when you start looking at the product or what you want to do, you want to maybe line it up where you want to spend your most time. So for instance, if it's a single part, well, now you can get multiples here. You want to do at least 3 features in that single part, but now I only get 10 points for my models. I don't get an assembly, right? And now I'm going to have to probably create a detailed drawing and such. So that's where I think it kind of forces your hand to make it maybe multiple parts. Okay, does that make sense, Chris? You said there's nowhere to get one. Oh no, you can shoot for more than 150 points. Because for instance, let's say you do the detailed drawings and you do 5 detailed drawings for me, but there was things I noticed that weren't quite right. You will still lose points if you don't include something. Or for instance, if I see up here in your part models, I don't have it specifically here, but the same things that we've been doing all along are going to be things that you're graded on. So for instance, when you go through, you have to show me your design tree. You have to change the names of each one of I don't want to see extrude 1, extrude 2, you know, that kind of thing. So all of those things that we have been practicing and doing, I want to be sure that you're still doing, and then fully defined models and stuff like that. Does that make sense? So points could come off. So even if you say, I'm going to do, 5 models here, maybe you get 5-10 points off because things were missing. Does that make sense? So I would shoot for a couple more points than just the 150, but the 150, I guess I think I said minimum. I don't know. I kind of retract the minimum statement because it's what you're going to be graded out of. So for instance, if you're like, I'm okay with 120 out of 50, I don't know what that percentage would be. Maybe it's not an A. Maybe you're like, I'm just going to go for this many points. If you set yourself up nicely in the class where you've done okay and everything, or you've got the grade that you want, you can do fewer points here. It's just whatever you decide to build. Does that make sense? So this is your personal project. And you also want to look at the next 2 weeks of your life, right? You probably have some other classes that have other things that you need to do. I'm not saying this would be a place where you don't want to put your best effort in, but be realistic about the time that you have to dedicate to this as well. Does that make sense? Okay. So, any questions on this sheet right now? Okay. So then, I want to go to what you're going to notice is when we go back to the module here, so that's our learning plan, you need to give me a project plan. Okay, that's going to be the first thing. I need to okay whatever you're going to propose doing. So if you go into here, the project plan is this: downloading either the PDF or that Word document of the document that we just looked at and checking off the stuff and maybe doing a little hand sketch for me to tell me what you're going to do. That's it. Okay. And then that way you can, mark it off. These are the points that I'm going for. Now, if you say to me, well, what if I planned for 50 parts or 5 parts and I only ended up doing 3? That's okay. That's okay. Just know that now you just have 20 points less available. All right. And then maybe you could add or make it up somewhere else. Okay. So, so that's going to be the project plan. So I want to make sure that, that I know what you're doing ahead of time. I don't want anybody to just jump in and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, that wasn't really what I was thinking. Okay. And again, I'm going to take this word minimum off here. It's just what your points are going to be out of. You can do a little bit more, you can do less. It's really your choice. Then the other thing that's going to be graded is going to be the total project points. In this one, you upload nothing here. So it says right here, nothing to submit here. I'm going to add your total points based on the items that you submit for the rest of the stuff. So down below, you're going to notice that the indentations here are all of those categories that were on the list. Some of you may have a little bit in all of them. Some of you might only do some of them. Okay. Some of them might not have anything in them. None of these are graded or accumulated in your grade. So when you submit and I grade you out on part models and features, this is not going to make your grade go up because it's like a 0 in there. What I'm going to do is once you've said either I'm done with assignment number 4 or it's the end of the semester, I'm going to go through on your line item. I'm going to count up the total number of points that you have here, and that's going to get submitted by me as a grade in the project total. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And then that way too, like I said, you can shift these things around so that as you have more time, if you're like, ooh, I could do an extra detailed drawing, or maybe I'll, rethink that or adjust my points here and there. You will notice I did put kind of the most, I put 30 points on 3D printing. I want to encourage you to do that. Okay. So we will talk about that. I think if you go into here, I did give you the sizes. So I know there was some, oh my goodness, that's not right. Glad I looked. I know there was somebody who asked me, our build plate is 8.5 by 8.5 by 10 inches high. Okay. So that's going to be kind of the size that you have to work with. Just know if you have, real tall parts, like 10 inches tall, depending on their base dimensions, they get kind of unstable. So if you want to, like, for instance, if you have a diameter of a rod that you want to print and it's 10 inches long, it's not really a good idea to take, let's say, a 1/2 inch diameter rod and go straight up 10 inches because it's going to be pretty unstable to print, and it'll probably have some problems doing that. So anyway, we'll talk about that stuff as it gets a little bit closer. We'll talk about those like 3D printing and how you want to kind of plan for that. But the other thing about 3D printing, they must be printed on the last day of our class, which would be that final Thursday. Okay. If we don't get them in by then you just don't get it in. Okay. So we're not going to extend beyond the class to do that. So if there's anything that you do want to 3D print, and that's definitely part of the points that you want to accumulate, you want to be planning to start printing like Tuesday of that last week, as opposed to on Thursday, because it's going to be first come, first serve. And if we have 4 printers, look around, we've got some people here. And that's why I wanted to let you know about this sooner than later, so that you can kind of start planning for that stuff. And we'll do a day when I kind of demonstrate for you how to use the slicing software and getting the parts over to the printers. And that way, when you have your capstone course in spring, you'll have some experience working with those machines, and that way it'll be a little bit more seamless at that time as well. Okay. So that's that. Any questions right now? Now, if you're not here yet, don't worry about it. Like I said, there are a couple people who are here and have been asking questions about it. So I wanted to talk about it today. But if you're not behind, you're not in a bad place at all. We're still finishing up. I mean, technically we're still on module 3 here, finishing up our can crusher. So that would be your first priority, today in class. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Okay. If there aren't any questions, I'm just going to check. Doesn't look like there's anything in the chat right now. If there are any questions, then don't hesitate to let me know or reach out to me. You can either text me or email me, and I'm happy to respond. If over the weekend you're looking around your house and trying to figure out something to do, can crushers can still be on the list. You just can't do the can crusher that we did. If anybody wants to, if they have a can crusher at home that they're like, ours is it does the same job, but it's totally configured differently, and it's, it can be applicable, I'm open to that. That's totally fine. So yeah, take a look around, see if there's something, if there's otherwise something that you want to design or improve upon. That's all fair game. I'm excited to see what you guys are going to work on. Okay. All right. All right, then I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to let you guys work.